I was eating a Sonic cheeseburger, and my mouth was full, and I went, I don't have to be me till Monday, and I went, and I thought it was the dumbest thing I ever said, and then it turned out not to be.
Hello, everybody. This is Rick Bisceglia. For the record, I just wanted to quickly talk about our last two podcasts before Dave introduced our special guest. We did the Huey Lewis thing, and we were really pumped. We were blown away. It's like every day we're new at this, Steve. So every day we count our views like spins. Yeah. It's like I go, oh wow, Then we were at 25,000. We said, what the hell is going on here? We did good. So we want to thank everybody for that. And then we did a little Clive remembrance, which was kind of cool. So that being said, Dave, you are here, and Steve Azar is here, and I want to know how you guys met. And Dave will set up your enormous resume.
Yeah.
All right, Rick, listen, are you ready? We're going to take a trip down south to what is known as the Magnolia State, and also the birthplace of the blues, but more important, it's the birthplace of the guy we're about to talk to, and that would be Steve Azar, my longtime pal. I will tell you this, he's a slacker. He doesn't do much. Singer, songwriter, guitarist extraordinaire, entrepreneur, has his own podcast, In a Mississippi Minute is awesome, a radio talk show, plays golf when he can, and that's just a little bit. My question to Steve always is, let's start with this one, when the hell do you sleep?
I always sort of say, hey, by the way, thank you guys for having me on. I love this, and I love how far down you guys have fallen already from a Clive Davis tribute and Huey Lewis. So this is good. You guys are going to see the difference in your streams. But with that said, no.
Well, they'll be triple up.
Oh yeah. Well, we'll see. Interesting
good point.
enough.
Good point.
Yeah. Interesting enough. I always sort of wish there were three of me, but nobody that knows me wants three of me. They want half of me. So I just I have this energy that I've always had, and no matter what it was, as long as everything sort of fits my purpose, which is the art of writing songs and getting to perform and play for folks, since I've been doing since I was really legitimately since 13. It's been a lot of years, and I've enjoyed the roller coaster ride, if you know what I mean. But I'm always grateful as long as it fits. So I always sort of think about music being the purpose, and as long as everything sort of orbits around it that has a direct bead to it, then that's what I've learned to do and enjoy. And I love being on the other side of it and asking questions to folks like you guys, and just listen to the stories, because it's what made music what it is today. And so I'm a fan of what you guys do, obviously. So getting to be on y'all's side of the microphone for a change has been fun.
And you do an awesome job. I love being on with you in a Mississippi Minute. That was a great one, and now you get to be here for the record. This is all for the record, Steve.
Yeah.
So,
well, okay.
So your podcast, just to refresh myself,
yeah,
you're doing one or two a week. Dave tells me.
I do two a week. I've been doing it into my 9th year, and it airs brand new on a Thursday and Friday after lunch, and then it airs on Sunday mornings, re-airs the 10 to 12 in every market in Mississippi on the most powerful talk radio called Super Talk Mississippi. And there's hundreds of thousands of listeners. It's been a lot of fun. The only thing bad about it is now that no matter where I am, everybody goes, man, Steve, we love your show, but they don't talk about my music anymore. I'm going like, I do make music. Do you still make music? No, so it's so funny, the power of getting on the radio and chatting, and talking, and no matter what, I appreciate it, and it's a lot of fun. And it's been into my 9th year, and now they're asking me to do a little more, and we don't want to go into that yet.
Oh wow, 9 years, boy!
Where the folks are, watching, listening right now, where can they find both the show and in a Mississippi Minute?
You can go to Super Talk Mississippi. Well, you can get it anywhere. So it's in a Mississippi Minute with Steve Azar anywhere you pod. So from Amazon to Apple to Google, everything. It's a Stitcher. It's all there everywhere you decide that's where you listen to your podcasts. Obviously, become a big thing. I've interviewed folks from Dave to Brett Favre to Jim McMahon. I had Alex English is going to be on this coming up from the Denver Nuggets. I'm having Charles Barkley soon. I've had some crazy folks. Norbert Putnam telling the story of how Margaritaville was written when he was producing Jimmy. I mean, so we've had all these nuggets of information that have been. It's just been crazy, And the stories that have popped up, and my mouth's usually wide open. I'm going like, this is nuts, But how history's been made in so many ways, and getting to share that with the listener has been fun.
And you just 9 years ago, you said you were way ahead of the curve that way for sure.
No, listen. Let me tell you what. I was at an Ole Miss game. We were in and I was just announced as their governor named me the music and culture ambassador of Mississippi, which I'm still serving as, and so we were in the Super Talk suite, which is the suite in the stadium, and we were having a cocktail, and they said, Steve, you ever thought about doing your own show? And I was laughing. Well, a couple months later, I found myself back in that suite, and they said, why don't you come see us? And I did, and my first 4 guests were John Daly, Grant Fuhr, great hockey star, Jim McMahon, and Richard Karn. And so I sort of started with them, and then had Michael Waltrip, a lot of friends of mine that I've met playing golf. Used to play in the Bob Hope a lot, the BMW, my buddies, Darius and Mark and Dean and Sony Hootie and the Blowfish, Dan Tominski. We all play golf, and we all have met playing in these celebrity golf events all over the country. And we became friends that way because, when you're out there spending 4.5, 5 hours during a round together, you really get to know each other. It affords that opportunity. And so we've done it, and we all help each other with our charity events.
That's good.
They all come to mine, I come to theirs, Branford Marsalis, the list goes on and on. But that game has brought a lot of us together. I've also got another podcast with 2 really smart guys. It's called Resonance with Steve Azar. And Randy Harrington has been one of the lead consultants for some of the biggest corporations in American history, from Microsoft to GoDaddy to whatever. And then also a guy, Mike the Monk Guy Farrell, who consults all these businesses based on the Benedictine principles. And you should see, I call it Gilligan's Island. And we've been doing it for about 1.5 years now. And we're starting to build the numbers up. And I'm obviously I'm Gilligan. We got the skipper and the professor. That's sort of our take. But there's some smart guys, and it's been a lot of fun.
Awesome. Well, Steve, because Rick was asking, where did you guys first meet? Well,
yeah, actually, how did you guys meet?
Yeah, before we even met, Steve. You may or may not remember this. I took my kids to the Oakland Coliseum to see one of my all-time favorite artists, Bob Seger. Opening the show was a guy by the name of Steve Azar, who I did not know, but I go, man, I couldn't believe it. Then I ended up talking to our late dear friend Harry Bud Nelson, and told him the show was amazing, Steve Azar, and he goes, Steve Azar, and we started talking, and sure enough, a few years later, you launched Ride Records, and and we kept riding.
We needed Rick with us. That would closed off the trifecta.
Exactly.
We tell you what, we got right to that 20 spot, and we had a #1 music video, and with our run competing against the Dragons. Coming from Universal, I was getting calls from all the promo guys from all the labels going like, what do you got? Oh my God, this is insane. But, Sunshine at the time was testing #1 in the country. We just had a few consultants that that just, they weren't consulting. They had decided not to. It was an interesting time. That's why we needed Rick there to come.
Well, you're making me think, Steve, because so many artists wanted to understand what we did, and some didn't care. Let the manager do all the work. Or all the in between shit. I have a feeling that you remind me of someone that probably wanted to know where every station stood. Could I call? Can I back it up? Strategize with Sholin. I could just imagine it. And
I love it.
It's a game.
Listen, let me tell you what, Rick. What you guys did was truly insane because you guys have to be up. You're visiting a station. You don't think I didn't respect this? You're visiting a station, and when you show up there, you're the first party they've had. But if it's the end of the week, you're the 9th party in a row that you've done. And you have got to have some sort of resilience, and you don't sleep. And you're constantly fighting for one spin at a time. I mean, it's insane. And so I respected you guys the most.
Well, thanks.
And I respected radio guys. I respected radio guys. There were a lot that fought for me, that gave me an opportunity and made things happen. So when it came to record folks, some of them were nuts. So I didn't really care much about them. But when it came to the folks from the studio to the promotion guys to the radio guys, that was to me, that was the salt of the earth. That was the folks that were getting it done. Trust me, I wanted an easier road.
Your road began. I'm glad you said began. Your road begins. You were like a child star. I mean, you were singing at boy. I don't know how. Were you 10, 11, 12?
I walked behind my dad. So my dad, Rick, opened the first legal liquor store in Mississippi. And I walked behind there in my baseball uniform, right? And there was Eugene Powell. And he was playing for a bunch of guys that got off work from the post office. And they were sitting on old Pepsi crates. I was on my bike. And I was 10 and a half years old. But on another note, I fell in love with making music that moment. Eugene Powell, Sonny Boy Nelson. He lives on my wall when you walk in my house. He was the guy that was playing for Postman at the end of the workday at my dad's liquor store. And I raced home on my bike, wrote my first words, and I've never looked back. I mean, they were always really supportive. Little Milton. When Stevie Ray passed away, I did his tribute. I had Albert King to the left over here on the stage. Son Thomas, a great blues legend. We did one of my songs that I played on the Seeger tour. All those 50 nights was a song called Flatlands that actually Sean Murphy, who's in the Silver Bullet Band, just cut. And I played that for the first time in my life for Stevie Ray's tribute when he passed away at the Delta Blues Festival. So there's all these things, these crazy stories of how songs will eventually find their way. But I had a crazy band in college. And by the time I graduated college, I had 221 nighters on the books, had 10 guys on the payroll. My brother and I were doing it. He was sort of managing things, more than sort of managing things. He was handling all that mess. And we had a 4-man road crew, and that's how I met my wife in Arkansas and at the University of Arkansas. And we were just doing all that, and eventually had a lot of tragedy in my band, and found myself basically done. I didn't know what to do, and because I thought that was going to be the answer, and then things sort of started to happen. And every time it happened, I was on the golf course. And it led me to Nashville. And then I started getting a lot of offers in the songwriting world. But guys, the crazy thing is this. I'd written all these songs, and everybody was showing up and singing every word to all these songs when we were playing live. And back then, there were no, you had to go record. You had to go spend $30,000 to make a demo, of 10 songs. Yeah. And we hadn't done that. So people were bootlegging cassettes and recording our shows. And you can imagine what that sounded like when people pulled up in their cars and they're cranking them. But it was funny. When I finally got offered, it was John Prine's guy, Albanetta, and then a guy named Rick Sanchek, who was running Atlantic Records, but his dad was one of the founders of BMI. And so they all asked, Rick had asked me, he had already said no to me, and he goes, "Can you play me the first songs you ever wrote?" And I said, "What are you talking about? How am I going to remember that? And I'll be dogged if I didn't." And he looks at me and he goes, "Play me another." And then I go, "What are you doing?" And he goes, "You're a songwriter." And I went, "You've got to be kidding me. You're telling me the first 4 songs I just played you?" And he goes, yeah, I'm signing you right now. And I said, that's nuts. And then I went and played those same songs for Al Bonetta. And Al said, you're a songwriter. And I went, are you kidding me? So I've written 600 songs, and you think that the last song is the best? And it was the very beginning in my infant stage that apparently I sort of got it right. And that's what got me moving, really moving at that point.
Well, it's interesting because my personal love of the business is the songwriter, and I've told Dave that before. I just am obsessed with the songwriter. We interviewed Diane Warren, and I hear there's a Laura Nyro who's my favorite, and Jimmy Webb. So those are those special ones. And I asked you, so it brings me back to you. You're 11 years old. We all loved music as kids. I listened to the songs.
Sure.
He listened and talked them up on the radio. But at 11 years old, how do you know that? And how did you know which genre to go towards?
I didn't find myself till I was 37. So I didn't have hits.
No, but you did it, but you're a songwriter.
Yeah, but I don't know. I don't know. I just feel like maybe I had the gift, but I really had to figure out the craft along. It's funny. I had the craft figured out, and then I lost the craft somewhere along. I didn't lose it. I just didn't spend enough time. You know, I was used to call it throwing up on paper, and whatever I was throwing up on paper was it. I just got lucky the first handful of times, and then when we played live, it was so entertaining, I guess, that it didn't. People were singing every word, and I've got all these old fans from the days, and they show up and they go, man, please record this, and this. And I'm going like, you know what? If you heard what it was now, it wouldn't feel nearly as good as it did for you back then. You know, hey, look, we'd play all these crazy clubs, right? And they would be packed. And there was one person not smoking in the crowd. I mean, that was the time, you know. And you came home and you smelt like then you'd find a chicken place in the middle of the night. You shake hot sauce up. You're driving home. You'd get home and you'd be drenched from a hot wherever you were playing, and you'd wake up the next morning and you go, what's that smell? And it was cigarettes all over your body, like on your clothes. And you'd have to wash them 4 times to get it out. I mean, those are the crazy memories. I look back, and I'd always notice one person in the crowd not smoking. I was going to look at that person right there, not in my mind, thinking like, what is everybody doing? But, you know, it helped for the lights. You know, we had smoke machines and stuff, but I said, hell, we don't need smoke machines. We got everybody.
You don't need them.
Point the lights to the people, you know. But you know, I'm a huge songwriter.
You mentioned chicken. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, go aher about the chicken. That's the best thing we talked.
When you mentioned chicken, and I'm thinking Mississippi, my daughter, Charlotte, she fell in love. If you mention Tupelo, Mississippi, the first thing she's going to say is Connie's chicken. She went to a place, and man, she just says the greatest chicken she's ever had.
We've got, you know, H. Bud. It's so funny. We're talking about looking at the great H. Bud here. Look, he stares at me when I look. He stares at me right here when I do my shows. I always feel like he's getting on to me. But H. Bud, the first time I met him, I thought he hated me. He was in Boston, and I was sitting at the other table playing. You know, I was playing and thinking, please God, love me. You know, it's true. Do you like me? And he is not. He looks like he's so uninterested. And all of a sudden, and he goes, Steve, okay, that's great. Are you done? And I went, yeah, I guess I'm done. I guess I'm leaving with my head between my, you know, whatever. And he goes, you got to go to Bob. We're going to Bob the Chef's. And it was a soul food place. And all he could think about was going, and then I go, do you like what I do? He goes, oh yeah, I've already added your record. I love you. I'm interested in the food. And we went and ate fried chicken. That's what we went and ate. You know, so that was my introduction to H. Bud. Great memory.
It sounds like, but let's go back. We got to get to that. You know, the first hit that really should have been. How did that song? And we're talking about. I don't have to be me until Monday. How did that song get to number 2 and didn't get to number 1? How could that? That has to be a number 1 song. Number 1 in a bunch of places. Still gets played today.
Well, it's been played. They say. As a few years ago, it was the top 5 most played songs since 2000 on radio. So it's been like how many number 1s?
I'm not surprised.
But it's really interesting. First of all, there was about 8 radio stations around the country that I'd befriended on a really bad attempt in the mid '90s with an independent label. But they had brought me in to play live, and they go, all right, we became friends, and they understood me, and they just said, you hadn't made the record yet. So when I made Monday, I sent it to them, and we sort of backdoored the record label in a way. And the promotion guys at Mercury at the time were a few of them were really in my corner, and they were fighting the head of the label to get me signed. And that song was sitting on their desk for 2 years. And I wrote Waitin' on Joe, and Waitin' on Joe, when we obviously had Morgan Freeman in the video eventually, but Waitin' on Joe was what got them to sign me. And so then they go back and they put Monday out, and we had already sort of known radio kind of liked it, but guess what? It came out. So Rick, imagine this. You're putting a record out on 9/10, the day before 9/11. We were one of the most added records. Everybody's calling to congratulate me, and 9/11 happens the next day. We were on the way to the airport to head to Iowa to work the record with some promotion guys. And of course, we didn't get off the couch for days. And I realized that, I'd waited my whole life for this opportunity.
Wow.
Then the opportunity really didn't mean anything because it was so sad. It was so sad to watch all that. And you're going like, but every record died. But it was something going on. And the record label would call me on Thursday and say, record's gone. It's just sorry. And they call me on Monday. And this was every week. Somehow, radio was just, we're back. And I'd go, what? So what they were doing was they were taking it literal. They were only playing it on Thursday night, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, like it was the long weekend song. And so we had to eventually, once we got to February and March, can you believe that we survived Christmas? And can you believe that thing started to take off? And when it took off, it was gone. And we passed George Strait's Run, who my buddy Anthony Smith co-wrote that song. And we passed it, and we were sitting behind Alan Jackson's Drive. But Houston, Texas, which you guys know in the world, they're like electoral votes. You got to have Houston, Texas, big top 10 market. Yeah. And there were 2 stations, and they wouldn't play it. And I asked, could I go see them? And my record, oh, no, they don't want to see you. And I didn't, my gut instinct said go. And we were on the road, and we were just sort of in the Midwest, and I was just going to take a flight. We were hubbing we hubbed a lot out of Omaha, Nebraska. It was a good spot for us. So the bus was there, and I didn't follow my gut instinct. So after the record got stuck at 2 for a while and didn't get to 1, and I don't know about you guys, but number 2 parties aren't that fun. And so I decided when we were traveling through Texas, we were doing shows before Waitin' on Joe came out, I'm going to go see those guys. So I approached them, and they said, you don't know what happened? And I said, what happened? They go, we were promised a free Shania show with her last record. And they bailed on us, and we took it out on you. And I went, you're kidding me, right? You didn't do that. And so they were the first stations to ever play Waitin' on Joe 2 weeks early, trying to make it up to me. And I remember the guy goes, I got to go now. I don't have to be myself till Monday. And I looked at him and I said, you're not allowed to say that. But anyway, they've caught up and played the record a zillion times. But I learned a lot about that. The good news is Shania had the $1.5 million video, I'm going to get you till it hurts me inside, all that. And they spent all this money. And my Waitin' on Joe video had Morgan Freeman in it, and we did it down here. And so we were the ones up for the awards and not her. So I got her back.
And the truth is, as a guy that's, so many, the truth is the 1 through 3 or 1 through 4 are all getting played the same amount of time.
Yeah.
I was never a big fan of this. I don't like 2, 6, or 11. You should be thankful that you got 2, 6, or 11.
No, I was
and in country, and I don't know if you want to get into it, but country seemed to be, the way they worked the charts at the end seemed to be a little more interesting to me.
Well, you understood that better than me. That's where I sort of drew a line. I just knew that I loved meeting radio folks, and those
right.
being great guys, and and there was no hard feelings. And I mess around with the Shania thing. We were competitive. So, and obviously she won, by the way. Obviously.
Yeah.
I mean, Shania sold a lot of records, and she's very talented and all that. But we were just in that situation, and but the video went number one on Monday, and the video went number one on Joe, and so we were able to maximize back when videos were on a countdown, and all that. So we were able to maximize all that back then. So that was good.
Yeah, I want to hear about Waitin on Joe, but just quickly for a second, for Monday, I don't want to have to be me until Monday. If you when you wrote that song, first of all, when you said, "Hey, number two parties ain't that much fun," they're more fun than the people that are number 3, 4, 5, and 11.
You get to the Super Bowl, right? But man, it's
exactly.
If you're not the last one standing, when we play golf, and I grew up playing a lot of sports, and we've tried to win every state title there was. We won some and lost most. But I was very competitive growing up as an athlete, and so I
really
I wanted to win, man. I wanted to win. Yeah.
Yeah, that is true. But so, where did you come up with that idea for? I don't want to meet until Monday. Everybody has that thought. Hey, we're going. It's a 4-day weekend, 3-day weekend. Yeah. Man, I can just go off and do whatever. Where did that all come from?
It just flew out of my head. Flew out of my mind. Well, it definitely came from a place. My roommate from college who played golf at Delta State was from Chicago, and we were dear friends. We became best of friends, and he went off and was killing it. He was making $1 zillion in Chicago with a merchandise company, and he had become very wealthy. And his wife calls and said he's not looking good. And he shows up. She goes, he needs to come see you. So he shows up in Nashville. I'll pick him up at the airport, and we bowl, we play pool, we play ping pong, we played tennis, we played golf, we played all, that's what we did in college. And when he showed up, he looked awful. And when he left, he looked like, oh my God, his face color looks better. And he goes, man, it was just good to not to be myself. And I kind of looked at him and I went, what the hell does that mean? So eventually I'd written a series of songs. One of them has Sonny Landreth on that same album playing on a couple songs, but on the song called One Good Reason Why. And that was one of the songs that was written sort of in that mindset. But right. I was eating a Sonic cheeseburger, and my mouth was full, and I went, I don't have to be me till Monday. And I thought it was the dumbest thing I ever said. And then it turned out not to be. My publisher, who had written more number ones, Mark Allen Springer, he goes, you mean you want to be yourself till Monday? And I was so confused. And I was going like, what are you talking about? No. And then everybody was trying to make the title shorter. And I was going like, I think radio will want to say, I don't have to be me till Monday. They want to talk. And so we had to go through all this. You'd be amazed at the process that you go through behind the scenes when a song's being written, when you got everybody listening,
right.
Songwriters and publishers. But I held my ground. I always listened, but I sort of had a feeling. The funny thing about that, we recorded it 3 different times and we never spent any money. So we were all playing it ourselves. And then I recorded it again for the 3rd time in a basement, and there was no money spent there. And every time we recorded it, it sounded really good. And I was going like, it's almost like you couldn't mess it up. And I think that was my first taste of understanding when you really write a song that has a shot.
Right.
That you really can record it, and you can mix it bad, or it still sounded good when we mixed it bad. And I thought, well, that's kind of cool. I think it was a good learning experience.
That's a really very cool, interesting point to hits or hits. Hits or hits.
Hits or hits.
But it's interesting about that song with that title, because days of the week, there's so many of them that are
there's
Saturday,
7.
Elton John singing, Saturday.
Well, the Beatles had 8 days a week, so I mean they crawled. And
That's
then
right.
you think about the Cure, Monday na 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 na, Tuesday da da.
Yep.
I mean they went, and then Just Another Manic Monday, which Prince wrote for the Bangles.
Yep.
I mean we've had Everybody's Working for the Weekend. I mean Loverboy. There've been so many good ones.
Rainy days and Mondays.
You got
come on. Why would you go
Domino doing?
I'm sorry.
That's so good.
You got Fats Domino doing Blue Monday, Stormy Monday,
Monday,
Mamas
Monday,
and
the
Papas.
Mamas and Papas.
Monday.
By the way, everybody, we're recording this podcast on a Monday.
We are.
Yes, we are.
That's
By the time this thing gets done, though, and my internet keeps going out, it'll be a Wednesday.
no Friday.
All right. All right.
That'll be your next song, Steve. But you did talk about "Waitin' on Joe," which is an amazing song as well. Where did your relationship with Morgan Freeman get started? Where did that all begin?
It was the
Because
song.
he's amazing in that video.
It was the song. We sent it to him. He had just moved back to the Charleston, Mississippi, as he says. And we thought, what the hell? We'll send it to him. And I sent a narrative because when I wrote the song, Joe was about totally three different things. It was my brother Joe, always late, habitually. I was always early. We were tugging a war all the time. I was just jabbing him. And then there was what I wanted to do for a living. And I was thinking, if I don't get it done now, third child's about to be born. I'm going like, what am I doing? I got to get there. I just didn't want to be a songwriter. I wanted to be able to perform those songs. I would have been half full, And so I started thinking about the towboats in Greenville, how they leave. They'll leave you. They're not waiting on anybody. You have to be there on time. And so I compared that. And then my Uncle Joe was mayor of Clarksdale, Mississippi, and he died of a long battle of cancer at 33. And when I was 9 years old at the time, he had a 5-year-old. I had a 5-year-old, and I started thinking he didn't get to be around for anything great as a dad. And his son, little Joe, didn't get to understand what his dad was like. And I started thinking about the cancer. The metaphor was the train. And then I didn't even have a chorus. And then all of a sudden I was cutting the grass one day, and the chorus came to me. I wrote it on piano. The interesting thing is, guys, I'm not a piano player. And I went up and recorded it on piano. I engineered the whole thing myself. Your son's probably going like, okay, tell me what you did. And I had a stupid little box that's sitting right there, a Roland like 1680. I threw the directions away, and I recorded it, and that's the version that got me signed, with me not having a clue of what I was doing. So, but Morgan heard the record when we did the record, and all we were trying to do was repeat what we did, and we had a real symphony this time rather than strings and all that. But Morgan said the song mattered, and he goes, "I'll be in the video," and I went, "Well, what's that going to cost?" And he was going like, "I'm not charging you." We have had more fun together, guys. We're playing golf with him at the Bayou Bend Country Club. It's not Beverly Wilshire, let me tell you. It's not, Spyglass. It's not Congressional. It depends on what crop is being planted. So when we played, the 2 times we played there in Sumner, Mississippi, was in a cornfield, and he's coming out of his golf cart. There's dust everywhere, and he looks like Fred Flintstone rolling out. And it's Morgan Freeman, for goodness sake. And we have the most fun playing golf. And he's come to my charity event a few times. And everything I've ever asked, when I wrote the bicentennial song and it became the state song, he was the first person that said, "We are one Mississippi." And so he said, "I'm in." And so anything I ever ask him to do, he just does. And he's just been really gracious to me. And he's God. He's God. Come on.
Yeah, yeah, and he loves music and loves the blues.
Loves music, loves the blues. And when we play golf, he's always singing. But let me tell you an interesting story. We were talking. I had my first hits at 37. He was the same age when he got his break as Easy Reader on Electric Company. And he said, "I'm never going to stop." And I looked at him, I said, "I'm not stopping." And so it's interesting that we both are sort of like, on this mission to be able to pull it off. And he's obviously years down the line in pulling it off in a major way. But I respect him just dearly. Just a good guy. What a good guy.
So as the ambassador to Mississippi, it only makes sense that you would write the state song. For someone who loves his home state, it doesn't take much to get you inspired, but boy, this song, for anybody that has not seen One Mississippi, check it out. It's great. And the experience of just being with all the kids in that video, it is so great. I mean, it gives you chills. Tell us a little about One Mississippi.
I got asked by Governor Bryant back in the day, 2016. He brought me in, and he had been paying attention to our foundation. I didn't understand that there was never an economic impact you were making. We were just concerned about giving. A lot of a lot of wonderful charities in the name of the arts. A lot of kids needing assistance along the way, scholarships, Camp Looking Glass, autism, whatever programs were down here. We wanted to be able to throw some money at it every year consistently to help them. And our foundation event, the Delta Soul Celebrity Gospel Charity event, which is the only fundraiser that my foundation, my wife and I, the Steve Azar St. Cecilia Foundation, we've been doing it for 15 years. At that time, we were doing it for 5. And so I didn't realize hotel rooms mattered and all the meals people were eating and, 160 hotel rooms, all this. I didn't realize the economic impact and using the arts to do it. And so he explained to me what the millions of dollars in that part of it that was making a big difference for our county and the state and our city and community. And he says, I want to make you the music and culture ambassador. And then he goes, look, but I also want you to write the official bicentennial song. You're the one person that's been writing all these songs about Mississippi, which I had. I had a bunch of records about just Mississippi. And he said, so I feel like you're the guy. And I got really excited. And he goes, but one caveat, every kid in Mississippi in school has to want to sing it. And I went, oh, let me go. And I tell you what, it's as long as American Pie and Freebird, but I got to tell you something. Some of my songs that I put out, there's been 17 years in the making. And I know that sounds stupid. Songs you could revisit growing up as a kid, and you finally finish them. That thing took as long as the song is, and there was no edits. So it was me throwing up on paper, but every single word, every single if, and but stuck. The melody, I was imagining it in my head when I went to the guitar. I never changed anything. It was one of those moments that was just I was just sort of the vehicle, I feel like, that the song wrote itself. And then we'd run around the state playing it, and everybody was singing. All these kids were singing it. And then we got a new flag in 2021. Mississippi really needed it. And then I was honored to have the legislature pass it and governor sign for it to become the official state song, repealing the one that was 60 years ago in Mississippi. So you can imagine what that was like. So, it was the greatest gift. It's the greatest achievement of my life. And we've gone to about 40 schools, and every single kid sings every single word. Every word.
So they don't so this song is there forever at this point.
Yeah,
There's no there's not
now,
a certain amount of years.
No, it's forever. And then now the book, there's a children's book that Ole Miss and Mississippi State, William Carey College, they all sort of came together and they looked at we have a teacher's guide, and in their education department, they teach the teachers that go teach, especially elementary school. Now there's a bill to be passed where it is curriculum, the book every year during Read Across America Week instead of like Dr. Seuss or whatever. So that could pass in the next year or two. And then I'll have the official, the book will be, and the book is already in its 6th or 7th reprint. And it was number 1 4 years, 3.5, 4 years later, was number 1 a month ago, still number 1. So it's been crazy. I got a tremendous illustrator from Oxford, Mississippi, and she created these 7 incredible kids and knocked it out of the park. And I think the book is back. Some of the book is, that's the book back there. You can kind of see it back there. And anyway, it's been a blessing. And, we'll play for, sometimes there's 300 kids, sometimes there's 1,000 kids. And I'm promising you, they're singing it. At America 250 for Mississippi, we had the symphony. We had 200 kids, and 300 gospel singers. And they were in levels. So the kids were in front of me. The symphony was in front of them, higher and higher in the arena. And then the choir was way back behind me with the American flag, and it was difficult to hear each other, but we just did that, and it was earth-shattering moving. It's amazing. So that's going to be on MPB, PBS down here. But it was pretty amazing to do it, and man, it's just crazy. It's the glue to all the songs I've written. Greenville, Indianola, Coldwater. I did Coldwater with Cedric Burnside. There's Rena Laura, who I did with 4 BB's guys, 1 of Elvis's, 1 of Little Milton's. It's a record we made called Steve Azar and the King's Men that we recorded a studio album from Club Ebony where BB met his second wife. And I was fortunate enough to have Walter King before he passed, who was BB's band leader. Worked together for him for about 3 or 4 years, and it is amazing. And so that's why I didn't move home for any of this. It just started to make sense. And I didn't move home to write a record. I moved home to be able to coach my son in basketball, who was really good, and also get to know my kids and spend half the time on the road that I was 250 days on the road, and I wanted to spend 150. And then all of a sudden I started writing all these songs about everywhere. It was just so obvious, and everything was writing itself. And the funny thing, Rick and Duke, how come I couldn't do it when I was living there growing up in it? I had to go away and come back and have kids and make a lot of mistakes and all this. But for some reason, it was so visual, all the memories, and it just really made songwriting a lot better for me. That the songs sort of were just I felt like I was not writing any of it. And I wasn't co-writing anymore. I was alone, and I like being alone. So it was a good experience to get back into the saddle. So
that transition, Steve, was meant to be.
Yeah.
For you to come back and write that, because when you hear that song, from the very first time you sent it to me, I got chills, and I'm going, but your deep love for the state of Mississippi, if anybody hears that song and doesn't feel it, something's you better check your pulse.
Well, it's a lot of pictures. So I wanted every line to represent a lot of things. And the teacher's guide takes you deeper into each line. So it's not like you're telling a story as much as there's just fragmented lines, and everything stands on its own. So it was a different way of me sort of seeing a walk through Mississippi in my mind. This is what you get if you eat this way. Your food, the agriculture, the music, the poets, the potters, Jim Henson and the Muppets grew. He was born in the same hospital I was, and he lived 9 miles away. He created all those Muppets on the creek, that we put a Christmas festival on every year. I mean, it's just, you think about the history of all this stuff that happened down here. It's just nuts, it's nuts.
Yeah. Well, going to William Faulkner's house was an experience.
The first time I ever played One Mississippi was there.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, for an event for the governor. That's the first time I played it. The second time was on a train track in Marks, Mississippi, because we were having as a music and culture ambassador, we were celebrating something. I think the train was coming through there now. And so, it was wild stuff, but it was all those times playing the bicentennial song that turned in, that people started to chat. It was like a hit happening, throughout the state. And then they just said it encapsulated who we are. You said something. It was a calling, I feel like, because our foundation is doing really well, and it's crazy. I was being managed by, at the time, Sanctuary. They had only about 6 acts. They had me, Fleetwood Mac, ZZ Top, Tonic, and Slash, and Tommy Lee and Slash. That was it. And I really loved them, and everything was fine. And I just come off 50 Nights with Bob Seger and had the first top 20 hit on our own label, Duke, that we did, and a #1 video. Yeah. And my agent had Keith Urban and me and a bunch. And really, to be honest with you, I was set. Or I felt like probably, but when I told them I was leaving, they thought I was crazy. And I really was crazy, because it doesn't make sense on paper. And my kids all agreed to leave their friends, Rick. They had all these friends. They were 15, 13, and 10. And they're going to leave Music City, where they were born and raised, and come to the Mississippi Delta. And they all said yes. And it was just everything that shouldn't have happened to get us back. And this is when I realized, okay, it's out of my hands. I got this studio here ready, right? And there's a lot of recording gear in front of me you don't see. And I closed the door, and I went, what did I just do?
Right.
It hit me. I said, what did I just do? I made the biggest mistake of my life. And the phone rang, and it was Oprah's people, and they were putting Sunshine and the album in the top things to buy at Christmas, because Kat Cora, my Iron Chef friend, let Oprah and them hear. And somehow it ended up doing that. But it was in the magazine with Josh Groban and Zach Brown. And I was going like, okay, it's out of my hands. I'm just going to let it roll. And it was literally, the phone rang right then. And so, you know, you just sort of, I guess you do this long enough, you're going to have moments of clarity. Because there's not
That's
many.
that's the way life is, and some things are meant to be, and they happen,
Yeah.
on the natch, as they say,
But
naturally,
but
and that's
me
the way,
but meeting Steve for the first time, he definitely has. Besides the drive, he has a good instinct. Your instinct knew that your kids were going to say yes. You knew that.
yeah.
I guess that's you. It has to be that because on paper, if you wrote it down, it didn't make sense. So instincts took over, Rick. That's a good point about that. And now, my oldest son. In my mind, I was thinking if they could absorb the rest of their school years here, and what if it inspires them like it did me? Because they were doing fine in Nashville, but Nashville
Exactly.
hodgepodge of all of us, right? And I'll be dog if my son didn't start diving into making all of his films. He was making films there, but they were kid films and all that. And he won every single Mississippi Film Festival, high school. He ended up in the All-American Film Festival, won this great camera, and he ended up getting offered to go to the Tisch Scholarship at NYU, and then the one out in California, which is Chapman. He chose California. And the movie, his first movie that he made, he came down here. He has one of his actors is on Stranger Things, and they got all these people on. Some of these actors, and he used some of the theater people here that were in my Waitin on Joe video all the way back then, and now they're on Apple and Amazon Prime. The movie's called Death Letter Blues, and they shot it down here. It changed his entire dialogue. It changed what he painted when he saw his visionary stuff. And he had a whole canvas to write and to paint and to create his movies. And, and so it changed his world. Now he's living in Hollywood, but everything is still there. And then our daughter was cooking from the age of 2 with plastic. And she was in a Michelin star restaurant, and she's on this show called The Knife's Edge about the Michelin star. Well, she was just an extern at the time, but she stayed there a while and had recipes on the menu, and they're trying to keep their Michelin star, and she appears on it like 7 times cooking or doing something. But she ended up with recipes on there, and all her recipes were stuff that was inspired, like hot tamales is a big deal here. It's our food. And she created these vegan hot tamales for the menu and everything she's doing. And now she's at another restaurant in Brooklyn, and they're one of the recipes is all inspired from my heritage, Lebanese. We're Catholic, but we're Lebanese, and we moved here in the late 1800s, Rick. It was crazy. And so, and then my middle son was a really good basketball player, had a lot of cool offers, D3, some D2, one in New York. But he wanted to, he's a doctor now, and he actually got a spot on Ole Miss's team with Coach Kennedy, but he felt like the water boy. He was in and he was out. So, but he, he's probably the least one artistically but he found himself in a small Catholic school where he flourished. So might not have happened where he was in a all boys school with 80, 90 boys in his class, So he was able to take advantage of moving down here. So it was a gift for all of them.
And how many years ago was that?
That would be the proudest dad.
2011.
Wow.
So they're in Austin,
What a
New York,
story!
and LA.
You have got to be so proud of your 3. But what? And the name of the film again? Well, you want to get an extra plug in Netflix, Apple. What is it?
Yeah, Death Letter Blues it's on Amazon Prime and Apple.
And Apple. Okay.
Yeah. And listen, he literally edited it all, did the music. He's very, handsy like that. And I don't think he wanted to, but I think he ran into some finance, they were spending money and he had to do a lot of the stuff. But it got distributed just this past year. It took a little.
And he has his name, Strack, is, I don't know if there's anybody else that I've ever heard with that name, Strack. Where did you?
My wife's let me get this right. My wife's grandmother's maiden name.
Yeah, those are tough to remember.
Yeah.
Well, listen, Steve, this has been a joy and fun. We could be doing this for, probably till next Monday, even though this is Monday. But
You're right. That's right.
a lot of songs about Monday and a lot of songs about Mississippi, but one Mississippi is a special one. But I do think I'm so glad you mentioned your foundation because
I appreciate that.
you're making a difference in the world. There are people that need that help, and you're doing it with, playing golf with, the list of celebs.
Yeah.
Is a long one.
Hey, at one point I was in the top 5 on Golf Digest, and I got to play it out, and at one point I could go low, but now I'm a mess. It just, it's a thing I sort of let slip away when my kids were doing their thing, and it was more fun watching them do it than me, and it meant more.
Right.
I got to say one more thing. I signed a 9-year exclusive deal with Viking Cruise Line. They come to us, 400 boats from around the country and world, and they named it Steve Azar's Mississippi. And of course, the state songs in there, but I play probably about 7 or 8 songs that I wrote about home, and then I mix in a few hits. And we got the #1 show in the Mississippi, and they come to us in an old performing arts theater that was pre-flood and barely post-flood. The building we're in, the original Greenville High, way back in the 30s, and so it's pretty cool, and it's been great for our community. And we employ 45 people, and it's literally my version of Branson or my version of Vegas, but it's like a dream gig. And so I've had the best time. There's going to be a second ship come, and we've already got our schedule through 2028. It's nuts. So it's meant a lot for the community, and they're a great partner to have, and I really love those guys. And so I've got my resident gig down here, so now I can just. It's crazy. I mean, you talk about that river. We grew up on the Mississippi River, and it dried up for a while, but now that baby's working, so it's a good thing.
And how long is the cruise?
Goes from New Orleans to Memphis, Memphis to New Orleans, stops at a lot of cool places. In the summer, it'll go all the way to Minnesota and come back, so we slow down a little bit. We got a show Thursday, actually this Thursday, and we're going to get to the point where there'll be about 70 shows a year.
Jesus.
And they're all coming. They're all coming from all over America, and so it's the funniest thing. I've never sold so many CDs. I thought that we'd use them as coasters for the rest of our lives, and they're buying them all. So it's so much fun, just to have your own show and it to be that. And what's the chances it could happen here? Crazy.
Rick, I told you he's a slacker. Steve does not do enough. The Energizer Bunny it will not keep up.
I got to ask one last. I know we got to stop, but what do you do to relax, man?
Oh man, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna go cook with my bride. We talked about what we're making. I'm gonna make homemade pizza tonight.
That's good.
And I've already got the dough happening, and all fresh ingredients. And but we love to cook, and it's a beautiful thing.
We got you.
That is perfect. Well, you got a daughter that probably can cook up.
We don't. Yeah,
couple of meals.
She's still a wreck in the kitchen. They both make a mess, my wife and her. I'm always cleaning as I go. So cooking calms me down, and playing golf actually relaxes me. Believe it or not.
This has been too much fun, Steve Azar. I love you, my brother, and this is For the Record. We want you to subscribe, so hit that subscribe button, and definitely want some comments. Always love those as well. And one of these days, I got to get to Greenville, and we can do a little partying.
Rick, I want you and the Duke to come visit me.
There you go. That's our invite.
We'll be there.
I love it.
Or we can hitch a ride in Memphis.
Yeah, you can. Hey, you guys are the best. I'm honored to be on your show. I really appreciate it. I'm grateful. And Rick, I can't wait to break bread with you. I've already done with the Duke. We'll do it, but we'll break bread and drink a little wine, and I'll come down the mountain a little bit. But I'm really grateful for you guys taking the time. It means the world.
Appreciate your time, man.
Yeah. Absolutely. Thanks.
Peace.